1160 AM and KSLNewsRadio.com. This is Utah's all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Montana, the state of Montana, officially banning very popular social media app. A lot of your kids are using it, TikTok. It means if you're even driving through Montana, you cannot download or view TikTok. You can't download it at all. My understanding and my read of the NBC News article that is if you try to download it, it won't be allowed. It's just you can't access it. Which brings Taylor Morgan and myself, Taylor in today for Dave Noriega. He's a host of KSL at night quite frequently. To the question, is Utah next? Utah's taken a lot of steps to protect children when it comes to social media in this last legislative session.
Yeah. Look, in my perspective, we are doing what we're doing with social media. And not to sound too cynical here, Debbie, I know that's kind of your role. But to step in and be the cynic, look, Utah is going after kids and social media.
Access.
And access. We know there's mental health issues there. That is demonstrable. It is clear. It is irrefutable. However, what I see it as a little bit of a political PR stunt. What's happening in Montana with an outright ban of TikTok, the way that the governor is talking about it, Debbie, I think it's more about banning the Chinese Communist Party than it is banning TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, the governor, in fact, saying, according to NBC News, the Chinese Communist Party using TikTok to spy on Americans, violate their privacy, collect their personal data and sensitive information. He claims it's well documented. And so we're asking you to call in 801-575-TALK. Utah's taken a step to protect kids from social media with a new law that takes effect next year that requires social media companies to verify the age of the user. And if you are not an adult, you have to have a parent's permission.
Right.
Is the next step for Utah, or is Utah going to ban one of these apps as Montana has? Now, we just talked to Earl Foote. He's an IT expert with Nexus IT. He owns the company, calls in frequently. And I wonder if these bans are really nothing more than just smoke and mirrors to make governments look like they're protecting citizens, because there are some very, very clear workarounds.
I think that's exactly what it is, Debbie.
If you know what you're doing, and it doesn't take much.
Those include Tor browsers, using proxy servers, what are called SSH tunnels, and VPNs, which is probably the easiest thing here that many people are familiar with already. In fact, most of those applications you can choose where you want to appear to be accessing from, right? From a different country, a different state. So yes, it's a way to spoof the system and show up as if you're accessing from a different location.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm now actually thinking, Debbie, if I am slow to the game here and by not using a VPN for online shopping to avoid paying sales tax. Maybe a bad thought, not putting that out there. But listen, this is common technology. We saw a couple weeks ago when the new law affecting adult content websites in Utah requiring age verification, we saw just a huge spike in searches for VPNs. There are clear and easy workarounds that are accessible to everyone. And I promise you, if you don't know what they are, your kids do.
Zach from Sandy, do you see Utah as a potential for banning sites like TikTok?
Yeah, I think the potential is there. But like you guys have been saying, I mean, it takes about 5 seconds to download and run a VPN. So I do think it's a waste of time. And personally, I don't know why we're looking to government for a moral compass. I think it's the parents' job to decide what their kids are doing, how they're spending their time, what social media they're using. Obviously, I think that there should be limits to social media, but I think those should be set by parents.
Zach, absolutely agree with you. Parents are giving their kids these devices. They're paying for them to have access to the internet. Parents should be regulating their kids' social media use, not the state government. So I agree with Zach. He's right.
And look, my objective for talking about the workarounds isn't to be, hey, here's the how-to, here's the recipe.
Sure.
My objective for talking about the workarounds is that if you want to talk about a ban, and like Zach just pointed out, you got to talk about the fact that this technology is out there for our kids to still access the content. While we think there's a ban in place, there's a potential that they've found this workaround.
Yeah.
So they appear to not be in a state like Montana that has banned TikTok, but rather another state that hasn't banned TikTok, and therefore their device or the company allows that app to be downloaded.
Yeah, and by forcing our kids to find these workarounds, we are enabling them to access the worst parts of the internet. That we're giving them tools that actually make them less safe online.
Jake in Magna, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, do you see a potential ban being next for TikTok in Utah?
I think it is a very potential. I mean, the reason why I say that is because with other apps out there, TikTok, and based off of what software engineers have found in last year's reports, was that with reverse engineering, they see that the software is deliberately used to get people's information. And China consuming that does present a U.S. security risk on that fact. And I think that banning it has more benefits than consequences. One being that it bans it from a country that wants to capture U.S. information, but would allow a U.S. entity to make an app of their own that does protect that information.
So it sounds to me like what you're saying, Jake, is that by using TikTok, we're kind of serving up our personal information on a silver platter.
Debbie, I have an iPhone. How many of our listeners have iPhones? Where were those made?
I'm just becoming more and more torn on this issue
as
we continue to talk about it. Amy from Syracuse. Is a ban in sight, in your view, for TikTok or other social media apps here in Utah?
I don't know, possibly, but I really don't think it matters, like you guys have been talking about. I have 5 kids, 2 young adults, 3 teenagers. I don't care what you do. They'll find a way around it. And it's definitely a family issue. We need to talk to our kids.
For your phone call, as we're talking about this, I realize, there's so many things that kids can't buy, right? They're banned from buying. They're not allowed to buy alcohol. They're not allowed to buy cigarettes. My point of saying this is I don't recall sitting down with my kids. Now, I did with social media. We had constant discussions, and I was always trolling the internet, making sure they hadn't set up secret accounts. And we had rules in place where posts had to be mom approved before they got posted. I checked their cell phones. They were required to park their cell phones in the kitchen every single night. But I don't remember having a conversation like something like this. Hey, just so you know, you're banned from buying cigarettes. Because you're a child. So don't go into a grocery store, or don't sneak into a convenience store, or don't ask somebody to buy you that. And the reason I'm saying that is because I realize I missed the boat.
Yeah.
And I leaned on the ban to protect my kids.
Right.
When they were younger, from things like cigarettes or alcohol.
And regardless of what the law is or the ban is,
you can't rely on the ban.
You cannot rely on the ban because there are always workarounds. And as well-intended as a ban may be, you can always find a loophole. You can always find a weakness.
And that is why now this is becoming clearer to me as we've talked about this ban in Montana on TikTok. You cannot rely on a government ban to do your parenting for you.
No.
Because a ban is in place, you have to realize technologically, likely your kids are smarter than you. Maybe they're feeling peer pressure to have a particular app or look at videos. Maybe it's just teenage curiosity. But you can't